Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like.
We have a podcast below in the description as well. Subscribe.
We're presented by our friends at Tito's Handmade Vodka.
#1 vodka in America, Tito's. Go make yourself a cocktail.
Who are the starting quarterbacks Week 8 when the 49ers visit the Chicago Bears in this NFL season? That is, that's going to be October. Oh, it's going to be on Halloween, Sunday, October 31st. Niners at Bears. Who do you think the starting quarterbacks are?
Trey Lance and Justin Fields.
Yeah, I think so too.
We talked about it leading into this weekend. And listen, I don't think like Trey Lance had one of those throwback plays and you would have thought Twitter saw a UFO. It's like, oh my God. It's like, guys.
Is that the best play in football, by the way?
It is an unreal play, and it's an Andy Reid special. Nagy has it. Kyle, they all have it. But Case Keenum is it right? Josh Rosen, if the play is there. But to me, it was more about both these two guys. And we've been saying I think people underestimate Justin Fields is a 4.4 flat guy. Like he can fly. I was thinking today there are two faster quarterbacks than him. I would say Lamar is basically 4.30. That's what I would give or take. I would put Kyler Murray in the mid 4 to high 4.3s, hauling ass. Justin Fields is probably the third fastest quarterback. Like people like Deshaun Watson. I Googled today his combine speed, 4.66. And Deshaun Watson's viewed as a fast guy, 4.66. I bet Trey Lance, when it's all said and done, probably in the NFL's close as he gets bigger, closer to 4.6. 4.6 is fast. Forever, like starting middle linebackers in the league were 4.6. Those guys, Justin Fields is going to hit so many sweet plays running. Like Trey Lance is really going to be, I think he's going to hang his hat on being a short yardage runner, but being a passer. To me, Justin Fields is going to be a little closer to like Lamar. He's different, Lamar, like Kyler Murray, but
Josh Allen
type. Yeah, but I think he's going to run a lot.
You think he's going to run like Kyler? I mean, Josh pulls it down. Allen.
His speed is elite. You can't catch him, and he can run. He split some guys today. Like those guys, I don't remember two young guys that more than likely are not going to start. That everyone is just those two fan bases. And the Forbes did the list this week. The Niners, I think, were 5. The Bears were like 7 of the two of the for most expensive franchises, right? The however many billion the valuations. Those two fan bases right now are licking their lips, the fans, for these two players.
Forbes should just, instead of doing the valuations, they should just go to Bezos and be like, rank these teams how you want them and how much you'd pay for each one.
That's a good way to do it. So I just think these two guys are the intriguing humans right now in the league. And it might be as simple as both of them aren't necessarily viewed yet as starters, so it adds some it's like trying to get a date. She keeps saying no. It's like, well, eventually she's going to go out with me. Part of that, then you go out and maybe you don't like her. But there is something to there's like a chase right now. There's an element with those two players. I feel they're in their own little group. Don't you?
Yeah, because they're different than Trevor Lawrence. They're different than Zach Wilson, right?
And I just don't think that many people care about Mac Jones.
I mean, I'm interested in him.
I am too, but I mean, he doesn't have the same intrigue from a physical standpoint as those guys, right?
Yeah, the thing that's confusing about the Bears is like they, as a staff, Nagy and maybe Ryan Pace too, like they actually have some pressure on them. They have some incentive to get Justin Fields in there. Now, ultimately, their #1 goal is to win football games. Like winning will do more than anything else that they can do.
Yes.
And maybe they feel some obligation because they promised it to Andy Dalton. And maybe they just don't want to give it to Justin Fields. I'd have to look at the Bears' early season schedule.
Rams
week 1. That's week 1.
That's Sunday Night Football. So it'd be a lot to put on them.
Bengals week 2. Browns week 3 on the road. That's not easy. Lions week 4. At the Raiders, Packers. I mean, there's no such thing really as a soft landing in the NFL. But I'm with you. By week 8?
The problem, though, Guy, is if that's the way you look at it, and I'm not saying you do, but I think the Bears kind of do. What if you're 3-4 going into that game, and then all of a sudden it's like this guy's going to save us?
Must-win game.
and then he loses, and all of a sudden you're 3-5.
I mean, John.
Where to me, you just get to, like, you get to work through it.
But here's the deal. Andy Dalton last year was 45%, 14 touchdowns, 8 picks. The year before, he was 59.5%, 16 touchdowns, 14 picks. The year before, he was 61.9%, 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Is he keeping Justin Fields on the bench for 2 months?
I've had a buddy who evaluated him as a pro scout very closely the last several years.
John, let's tell the people about our friends at DraftKings, promo code HAM.
Daily fantasy, baby. Download the DraftKings app. Use the promo code HAM. Get in our league. You can find it below in the description. DraftKings, download the app, promo code HAM. And thought he was shot 2 years ago. Thought that the year that the Cowboys signed him, and really his money spoke for itself. The Cowboys, remember, gave him like $2 million, and everyone's like, oh my God, steal! And then, like you said, he threw some touchdowns, but at 45%, he's not that good. Somehow, the Bears gave him $10 million. How could you go from making $3 million to then, and I get you were kind of desperate, but be bad and then triple your money? In any other walk of life, yeah, it shows you.
The Bears didn't have Justin Fields when they did that signing.
If they would have had Justin Fields, no chance they pay him $10 million. Maybe they still sign him, but he's getting 4 max.
Jared on YouTube says, Fields was bad today. Nobody here watched it, LOL. I got a text from a buddy who played in the league, and he basically said, like, this Bears offense looks terrible. That was pre-Fields, but
they were bad before. And Fields was bad the first couple snaps he got in there too. Again, preseason, I don't look at the results. I just look at the talent. I evaluate guys like I do a draft prospect when it comes to young players. And Fields, his talent is remarkable. Trey Lance, his talent is remarkable. Can I live with some of the shitty? Yes, because they are elite. If they weren't, I couldn't live with it. Like Mac Jones, I will give him some credit. A little bit, the 2 drives I watched, looks pretty normal. But that's just what he's always going to be. I don't think Mac Jones is going to look that much different right now than he will in 5 years. Like Mac Jones right now could probably run the Patriots offense. What my buddy who texted me, like, why does Trey Lance look like he's getting slow to go through his reads? Mac Jones like, it's like, well, that's the only thing he can do.
He better get rid of it because his arm's not making up for it.
No, and he can't move if a guy smokes one of the guards. So to me, you have to look at preseason like you're evaluating a draft prospect. The physical attributes. Now, that's where coaches push back, right? Because they're running our offense. You got to execute it, and it's kind of the tug and pull.
The question is very simple. Can Andy Dalton win the Bears enough football games to keep Justin Fields on the bench because of what you just said? Because then the conversation is not, can Justin Fields win us games? The question is then, what are we waiting for if we're just waiting for Andy Dalton? So I just think it's unlikely that 7-8 weeks into the season, Andy Dalton is still their quarterback because I think they're going to have problems.
Yeah, I would say the major difference, too, between the Niners and the Bears, there is not a Bears fan alive beside maybe some people in Dalton's family who are now just they're into the Bears fandom. They're not true Bears fans that want to see Andy Dalton play a snap. I think it's the Niners. Obviously, people want to see Trey Lance, but if you say Jimmy Garoppolo is a starting quarterback, people will suck it up for a minute if it works, right?
Yeah.
I don't think people, even if
if it doesn't work, he's not going to last.
100%. Even if Andy Dalton, they win a couple games, no one's going to want to see Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's in a shitty position from a fan standpoint.
Yeah, it's like at 2-0 you don't, but at 3-0, at 4-0, at 5-1, at 6-2, you go, all right, well, we've sucked, so we'll take it.
Sucked would be strong. We made the playoffs.
That's true. They actually have a sneaky better than you think.
Game.
That's true.
It's
felt worse. There you go. Bold brotherhood.
He gets a rap like he's really shitty, but he's been in the playoffs 2 or 3 years.
Brotherhood.
Just protecting my guy.
Yep. I understand, but it doesn't change the fact that there is pressure on that.
There is pressure.
Organization. Yeah. Although I heard somebody say the other day, like, Ryan Pace is better drafted than people think. It's just the Mitchell Trubisky thing has been pretty bad.
Actually, he's drafted pretty well and made a good trade for Khalil Mack.
Yeah, so maybe. Well, the problem is that they've wasted Khalil Mack to this point, kind of.
Very true. Yeah.
You would think like one team gets a generational pass rusher, the other team gets a bunch of ones, and it turned out to be a lose-lose. How did that work out?
I don't know.
How did the Bears and Raiders pull that off?